Be sure to tune in next week as we interview Benji Carmson and his new book, Castration Sucks. Here comes the pain!
Hey everybody, and welcome to week 40. There's that number again. Man, it's kind of spooky. Anyway, week 40, 2016, and we're actually moving up in the volume again. We're up to 27 total reps on the volume work for Saturday, Sunday, Monday's strength work. So that's going to be 3 sets of 5 and 3 sets of 4 for a grand total of 27. Man, math is just amazing. Hey, speaking of math, something I forgot to tell you guys about last week is that I have modified my shoulder routine a little bit, and what I'm doing now is I wanted to use some heavier weights, but it would be difficult to get the grand total of 40 reps. So the problem I was facing was, well, if I move up in weight, I'm probably going to have to take a hit on the total volume. But I managed to remedy that by incorporating the Klokov press that I think I showed you guys in one of the videos. So what I do now is I've moved up to 105 pounds on my volume overhead press work. And what I do is I'll do 27 total reps, and that will scale as the weeks go on. And what I do is I just get that in however long it takes me. So on good days, I usually get there in like 4 sets. Bad days, 5, maybe 6, something like that. And then I just finish off the volume with 3 sets of the Klokov press, and that has solved the problem of allowing me to use heavier weights but not taking a hit on the volume. And there's the 3 plates again on the bar, and that reminds me, there was an omission a couple of weeks back when I gave a shout out to my parents for thanking them for helping me purchase the extra set of plates. I totally forgot to mention that my brother also contributed to that cause, so sorry for the omission there, Face. If you're watching this, my bad. Oh, another story that I wanted to tell you guys that I neglected to mention last week because it pertains to last week is that, you know, coming out of the taper where I was doing so much less volume and the workouts were taking like barely an hour, which is great. Even I, someone who doesn't really have an issue with motivation problems, even I sometimes have to deal with that little voice, what I call the lazy brain voice. And sometimes it says things like, hey, why don't you just continue doing this taper type routine and just skip going back to the mega volume routine. And the reason I bring that up is that, you know, that's actually how we're wired, because our bodies think that, you know, we're still in the era where there's like famines and feasts, and, you know, it's like, hey, you better save that energy just in case and don't worry about expending it. I actually also dealt with that in my recent 5K, you know, because I was going along in like mile 2 and 3, you know, in a lot of pain because, you know, my side had cramped up and also my legs were hurting, you know, because I hadn't trained. And that little voice was saying things like, hey, why don't you just, you know, stop and walk for a little bit, maybe stretch out, you know, like nobody will care. And I was like, I care. I was like, what are you talking about? And there's a point on the course with about a half mile to go where you actually make a 180-degree turn and you can actually see who's behind you. And the fastest female runner was about 20 seconds behind me. And, you know, had I given in to that voice, I would have lost to her, you know, because I didn't put the effort in, you know, not because she was necessarily faster, which sometimes is the case. And, you know, I was just like, that's unacceptable. You can't lose to the ladies, you know, just because you didn't want to try hard. Anyway, switching topics, it's time for a public service announcement. I don't know how many of you out there watching happen to be fish. It's probably unlikely that any of you are, but just in case, I just want to let you know, if you're a fish and you think you can just talk all that smack to the cats because you're in your aquarium, and cats generally don't like water, I got a warning for you. Cats don't care. They will make you pay if you just talk that smack with your fish voice. Blah, 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 blah. Not sure if that actually translates in fish language as smack talk, but you get the idea. Anyway, getting back to semi-serious topics, next screen coming up, you guys may want to pause it if you need some time to read it, but it is the screenshot of my latest cholesterol numbers from my latest blood work at the doctor. And as you can see, both my good cholesterol and triglycerides are off the charts good. I think last year I actually rated a comment from the doctor about your triglycerides are too low. I'm like, is that even possible? And this year I got I got an H because my good cholesterol was out of the range because it was so high, and I think they're just used to standard American sludge blood as opposed to my blood. But anyway, I want to talk about some of my diet things that I do. I think it's a combination of my diet and exercise routine that actually gets those kind of ridiculous numbers. And the things that I do diet-wise, believe it or not, are somewhat contrary to what you hear are the best things to do. Like, for example, I think that when you're consuming fat, I think you really ought to concentrate on saturated fat, believe it or not. They say, oh, you got to have the polyunsaturated fat, like nuts and vegetable oils and this and that, and I really, really think that's a mistake. We need to pause briefly, and you know why. Because it's hump day! Oh yeah! Anyway, yeah, I really think focusing on the polyunsaturated vegetable oils is a big mistake, because I don't think there was any way for humans to actually get that kind of quantity of those kind of fats in nature. I think that can only happen when the oils are processed, whereas like with saturated fat and monounsaturated fat, those all exist in like your fatty animal products, and so I think that is actually the better fat to be consumed. The other thing that I do is lay off the sugar, keep that to a minimum. I keep most of my carbohydrates as very starchy. I generally go with white rice and oatmeal, but you can also go with like potatoes, pasta, those kinds of things. I think sugar is bad news. Actually, believe it or not, a buddy of mine was being asked by the doctor if he was a drinker, and he's like, no, I don't drink alcohol. And I think the issue he was having is that he was consuming way too much sugar, and it was making his liver complain rather loudly, shall we say. Of course, though, you guys know I don't worry about 100% compliance. I definitely subscribe to the 80-20 rule, and the donut fests that you guys have heard about have definitely demonstrated that. But I think if you do 80% plus of your diet, fairly clean, fairly healthy, at least by my definition of healthy, because that kind of changes depending on who you ask, then the other, 20 or less percent is actually okay. Oh, of note, this week, weight was actually down, so that's actually unacceptable. So you know what that means. We're going to have to raise the calories, the calories, the calories, said the calories, the calories, yeah! So that's going to be excellent. But as always, guys, we're going to close with mother, the dodeca mother. Another good week in the books. We will be talking to you guys soon. And the volume update for this week, we're comparing week 40 to the previous week, which was week 39. We are up about 3,000 pounds, 168 and change for the week. And for the year, we're just under 4.9 million. And 2016 goals update screen, pretty standard as usual. Just the 10K chin-ups update. We're now past 8,000. We're at 8,120. And the diet update screen, as mentioned, weight is down this week. And like I said, unacceptable. So we're definitely going up to 3,000 even for the week. And we'll see how that goes for about the next month or so. You guys take care. I'll catch you next week.